usually said that Indian education system is more of degree oriented, less than job oriented. People get their degree, but they don't have skills. This NEP is being developed, keeping in view to develop the skills of the people who are going to work, learn and work, I should say, because this learning is going to impart or increase their skills, which is going to be helpful for their earnings also. See, when we talk about education, NEP on this basis, 21st century, every child who's been adapted to now I can say it, because of this COVID, we are able to provide every individual one high-tech gadgets. We are calling ourselves as a Google educators. And those who are getting education, they are being well versed with these adaptive things. Now, expectation which people are looking forward from us under NEP is whether our teachers are going to be so well versed with all these technologies. Are they going to provide us all that skills which is going to inculcate or increase our learning abilities? Their expectation may be of methodology, because when we talk about methodology, there are two different ways what we are providing right now. That is only memorizing, grading, evaluating them and rewarding them. But as per new economic policy in 21st century, it will not be like that. It will be based upon, is a child is able to understand or understood everything what being taught? He have a proper reasoning for what is being taught to him? Whether the teaching of a teacher is able to provide a critical thinking in child? If he is able to achieve that critical thinking, is he able to attain the skills what he will be using, or she will be using in future for his job enrichment? So basically, when I talk about this new education policy, I'll talk about this education system will impart knowledge to child so that he can develop himself or attain the lifestyle what he is looking for. Earlier education system where the complete set pattern was defined, that either child should go for commerce, either should go for arts, whether we should go for non-medical or medical. But now this education policy defines a free way to every child, where he is allowed to take one of the stream from commerce, one of the subject from arts also, so that he can use his skills, his knowledge, his interest to develop his future well-being. Future well-being based upon certain challenges. When I talk about challenges, see, every system which has been developed till now is having a complete monotonous kind of working system. NEP says the development of infrastructure. Now the school have to develop, every school have to develop, not on the basis of what they can provide, but what they are asked to provide. When I said asked to provide, means every child is looking forward for number of options that is subject based, where child is getting either commerce, accounts with physics. So each curriculum has to be developed in such a manner that child must be able to get what he is looking for. His evaluation, the complete evaluation system will be changed. Why? Because earlier evaluation based upon memorizing only, but now evaluation must be overall development of this. How long he is going to work. They have divided 5, 3, 3, 4. That is fundamental, preparatory, middle and critical evaluation. Fundamental, which is basically involved in providing the platform for children's in pre-group, where they understand, they learn in a peer group. Preparatory, where start developing their basic skills. Middle, where they have been introduced with certain subjects or options where they can choose the best for them. And critical, that is the higher secondary level, that defines that they have a base level to do work according for their future. My area of concern in NEP is, or challenges which I believe that will be, whether our teachers the mentors who are going to provide the complete education system, or who are the basis of education system, are they going to adapt the changes easily? And if yes, then what changes you expect from them to be brought in their curriculum, and in what way? When I say what way, because NEP is very, it seems to be very smaller issue, but I believe it is a vast line where it is not a task of 1 year or 2 years, take another 5 to 7 years to come up completely on NEP, because NEP is defining the overall development, overall changes in the learning as well as teaching process. When I say is teaching process, that says a teacher who is going to impart his knowledge, who's going to impart the skills among the children, must be adapted with or well versed with all the basic requirements of that particular skills. That is, for example, if I take it, business studies, the subject which is running and defining that every child must get the skill based upon case studies, whether the child is only imparting a curriculum based lecture system or he is putting somebody on platform. When I talk about platform, I say more interaction with the society, more interaction of a child at a critical level with the business empires, where he learn by putting himself in a position, or I should say, as sir have already said it, learn, forget, and relearn. That is, what you learn till now, forget it and start learning something new. Something new that is going to drastically bring a benchmark for a child to learn in a higher order thinking skill. The another challenge, what I believe in, upgradation. Upgradation by school itself. Our schools or our institutions are able to provide every child the assist of technology, because without technology, now I believe no individual is able to adapt and change according to the need. Every school nowadays are adapted to or ready to change because of COVID, from when we offline teaching to the online teaching part. But not only this online or offline teaching, but we are also looking forward for imparting a skills. Skills like, as David have already said, that they have a friend who have already into providing metal work, carpentry work. I still remember, sir, when I was in 10th to 12th and working on my schooling, I was SUPW subject, where we used to be taught about how to make different items in wooden work and metal work also, in classrooms also. This is basically, that time also was there, but now also there, to impart a skill where every child start working and learning and fulfilling his basic needs. In India, education has been provided for degree. Sorry, I'm saying so. But when we talk about development of skills, I'm talking about development of skills so that every individual who is into education system must attain any of the skill which is going to help him to earn. See, by the end of the day, every child is looking for earning. When we say children is studying, parents, society always expect that my child is studying for what he's studying. The outcome is learning outcome, I should use the word, is what he is grabbing from a school or education. This education, I believe this NEP is going to change the mindset of the people and society, where they're able to understand that education policy which has been introduced is going to create a benchmark where they learn the critical evaluation as well as the skills which is going to help them to develop in future. In my concluding statement, I would say that NEP is going to bring lasting change in the present education system and the future education system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajiv sir, for sharing these wonderful thoughts in detail. You said that in your assessment, NEP is a child-centric document and it is empowering students in multiple ways. You talked about where NEP is focusing upon the infrastructural development. David sir also talked about that. You also talked about you perceive those changes in evaluation and assessment, which NEP is also talking about. You also talked about the challenges, in terms of upgrading schools, in terms of adopting technology, and why we need to, we do not have any other option. We have to have, technology adoption. And you also shared many examples where, institutions have adopted technology very smoothly. And in the end, you talked about and called upon every educator that we need to connect our education with, with more the learning outcomes rather than the monetary earning it is helping us in achieving too. So thank you, Rajiv sir, for sharing these wonderful ideas. I'll be coming back to you with questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I would request Dr. Shashank Solanki ji, Shashank sir, if you can have your thoughts, ideas in detail.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, once again. I have been listening to everyone intently, and most of the points regarding the education have been covered. Listening to Sunil Dangi ji, when he was talking about the career choices and the actual uncertainty that currently prevails in making the career choices, I can't help but remember an incident from Mark Twain's life. Once Mark Twain was traveling through railways, and the ticket collector came and asked Mark Twain for his ticket. So Mark Twain told him his name and started looking for the ticket. Once the ticket collector came to know about Mark Twain, he said, "Sir, I will not be needing your ticket. I know you very well. I have been reading your novels and you are a gem and everything." But Mark Twain still kept on looking for the ticket. So the ticket collector again said, "Sir, I won't be needing your ticket. You can just leave it." Then Mark Twain said a very interesting line. He said, "I'm not looking for the ticket to show it to you. But if I do not find the ticket, I will not know where I'm going." This is the sorry state of education. I'm very sorry to say that, but this is the sorry state of education currently. Most of the people, most of the students get into education without actually knowing why they are pursuing it. And that has been, that is one of the most important challenge that we all must address immediately. Most of the people who come and join the school, ours is a school in an economically weaker section, and most of the parents, when they come and join the school, they ask one thing: how long will it take for my child to start speaking in English? My question is, why is it important to speak in English? If you can express yourself in any one particular language fluently, that should do the work. But the craze behind learning English and not knowing why you are learning it, I think that more or less summarizes the current state of education. This new education policy, ever since it has been introduced, or rather ever since it has been we have been acquainted with it, has been causing some serious stirs. The last policy was 34 years ago in 1986, that was called NPE. And in the last 34 years, there have been certain changes, but we as educators have somehow managed to nullify all those changes, and we have brought education into that, again, into that nutshell where it belonged. So problems have been from both ends. Parents want a certain outcome without actually knowing what is the reason for that outcome. We, as David sir have correctly said, in commoditization of education in that race, we have simply been trying to ascertain that they get that outcome in form of marks. But the actual outcome of education has somewhere been lost in the whole process. So if this new education policy can somehow ascertain that the desired result is attained, then only is the use of this new education policy. Otherwise, effort will be made, because any change or any stir usually causes a lot of effort. But that effort will be accompanied by outcome is not certain as of now. So, okay, the system of education will be 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. We all have been listening about it. 1 year of education have been added. The students will be introduced to formal education from the very first day they enter the school. It won't be from class first. Those are some of the challenges, but they can all be managed. The beauty again, there is this very beautiful introduction in the higher education, but personally thinking, I believe that we cannot get the desired result until and unless we start sharing our experiences. Alokji said that one size cannot fit all. That is true, because there have been so many diversities in India, not only culturally but also economically. So kahin na kahin hame apne experiences, we'll have to share them region wise maybe, or maybe grade wise, and only then maybe we can come up with certain solutions. There has been a very vast history of failures. CCE at the time of introduction, it was welcomed by most of the schools, but after a certain period of time, it was realized that most of the students are getting 10 out of 10. That means that there is no more requirement of learning in his career. 100 out of 100 basically means that he is perfect in every which way, and there are no more requirements or no more learning requirements left in that child. So if we take that attitude again, I think there is no point in introducing all these new schemes. But if we take it in the right spirit, so kahin na kahin, we can always make some improvements. And moreover, we have to learn from our mistakes of the past, because we do not have the time to commit all those mistakes again. So there has to be a learning process. We have to be open to each other. We have to share our experiences with each other. And in order to share all those things, we have to have a common platform. So basically, all the problems that one school face are also being faced in certain amount different from the one school, but more or less the problems are similar. And once we start communicating with each other through certain platforms like the one we have today, it will be a lot more easier for us to come up with solutions. And if we are looking to have the next Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Ma or Steve Jobs from India, we will have to actually start thinking out of the hat. So Bhavna ma'am has also made an interesting point that we are still in a learning process. So that is true. We always remain in a process of learning, because life itself is basically a process of learning. And from day one till our last day, we always learn something or the other. But that learning and the utilization of that learning should be something more than just appearing in the exams. Or we also have to look for the correct rubrics for making this process, this new policy a success. Because otherwise, if we do not have the right rubrics or the right observation tables or proper transparency, then there is quite a possibility that this whole policy will again be a puppet in the hands of the examiners, and they can use it any which way they want to. So some clarity and some standards should be maintained, not only from the government side, but from the stakeholders like parents and schools. Parents should be allowed more openly to visit these schools and come up with the ideas, although that is practically not that easy, but somehow we have to start trying that. And I would in the last only say that although we are in a need of an education system, new education system, but somehow we have to self-evaluate that are we even ready for one? Because that self-evaluation will make us realize where we currently stand. And new horizons are in the sight. But for those new horizons, I personally believe that we have to be the enthusiastic sailor to actually sail towards those horizons. only then we will be able to make a proper use of all these new opportunities that we are getting. Having education in an area not only helps the people think, feel, and behave in a way that contributes to the development of humanity, firstly, to the development of their country at a second stage, and lastly, they should be thinking of their own development. Or as and when we will start thinking about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which has been an old saying in our education system always. If we start thinking of education in those lines instead of commoditizing it, I think we'll be in a mess again. So we'll have to open ourselves. We'll have to open ourselves to the suggestions. We'll have to open ourselves to the experiments, and only experimenting and working together can actually give us a good good chance of utilizing this new policy that has been served to us. Thank you. That should be it from my side.
I hope I'm audible.
Now you are.
Thank you, Shashankji, for sharing these very important, valuable thoughts. You talked about, and we completely agree with you, sir, when you say that, many are into education without a purpose and a clear direction. They are following what they are being told to follow. So we all agree with you. We certainly need to empower them, with that purpose. We need to empower them so that they can find that purpose. You also talked about that, we have overemphasis upon wishes, and assumptions, rather than a clear objective. And that is hampering the true learning process. You also talked about the importance of self-evaluation. And that is, one very important way of improving our, standards in different aspects of education. You talked about the importance of social values, and why we need to inculcate these values among our learners. And in the end, you talked about the importance of experimenting and collaboration, and how these two key skills in 21st century would give us more empowered learners, would give us more empowered Thank you, Shashankji, for sharing these very, very important points. I'll be coming back to you with questions, sir.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, with this, I would request Arvinder Kaur, ma'am. Ma'am, if we can have your ideas, your thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Raju. Am I audible?
You're audible, ma'am.
I would pick up from the lines Dr. Shashank left. He beautifully said that learning happens till our last day, till we are alive. And I'll pick up from the same thing, that learning starts from the birth, even much before that. And this early childhood learning had been the most neglected part in our education system till now in India. And thankfully, the policymakers have started putting some highlights on this sector also. So I'll be discussing about the challenges of early childhood education and the global perspective associated with it. Can I share my slides, please? Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
All right. Is it visible?
Yeah, I'm saying let's need to present your. I believe it is visible to all the other participants.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. All right. So we are going to discuss about early childhood care and education, national challenge with global perspective, setting the stage. As I said, learning begins at birth. All children, they are born with the capacity to learn. And this stage is the most solid base on which any society can build. As I mentioned earlier also, out of 800 million children which are 0 to 6 years old, less than 1/3 of the entire number benefits from the early childhood education programs throughout the world. Can you please, next slide? Yes, thank you. Next slide, please. As the name suggests, the topic is National Challenge and the Global Perspective for Early Childhood Education and Care. Next slide, please. As said, I'll quote Mr. David's point here. He said that half of the children who are in school cannot read a paragraph till class 5th and cannot do math sums from class 2nd onwards. The question is, why does this happen? The most important feature of this early childhood education in NEP, or the approach, is to emphasize, let's just stay on the previous slide, please, is to emphasize the best interest of child. That's the main issue. The global perspective includes both the child as a whole and all children in the world. Promoting a meaningful life for children will always be based on values. Which values we are going to teach to our children, preschool children, which are going to set the stage for their entire lifelong learning. That's the main point, the core focus that we should consider here in our education policies. A value orientation, however, is not enough. So I think we must rely on research on young children and institutions that care for and educate them. What is basically early childhood education? These are the activities related to reflection, planning, preparation, and implementation of upbringing and education of children below school age, below the formal school ages, basically from 0 to 8 years of age group. It is a dynamic sector of research, education, and practical life. It also carries traditions from past, showing new generations of professionals, those who are the policymakers, the teachers, and all the childhood care workers, parents, how to understand children, how to pass on the knowledge from one generation to another, and how to bring children into the areas of valued competence. Next slide, please. So if we talk about the challenge, it is enormous, because if we talk about the demographic pressures and increased poverty that most countries experience, even in our country also, yet efficient and low cost options for early childhood exist, and they are adapted to the needs of children, the life conditions of families, the culture and resources of countries. Their implementation depends more on creating adequate political and social will than on any other sector. So if we see, most countries are going through a period of rapid population growth, increased urbanization, important social disparities, great number of school dropouts, and of course, alarming progress of diseases every year that we face. For example, we are facing COVID recently. So disadvantaged families and the young children, they are subjects to its worst effects. All these factors which are influencing our early childhood education and the later years learning. NEP 2020 should address the issues of early childhood care and education by strengthening national and regional capacities in areas of research, training, programming, and information, so that it enables early childhood professionals to design appropriate solutions to the national needs in the early childhood education. Can we, just stay on the same slide, please? If we talk about the government priorities and commitments, and the previous one, please. The previous slide, please. Yes, the same. Thank you. If we respond to the government policies, commitment, and participation as per NEP, the main priority areas regarding children and women where outside support would be beneficial is initial and in-service training for all the childhood personnel, social workers, trainers, as well as vocational training for women. The next slide, please. I'm not able to do from here, from my end. The next point is information documentation on, yes, the same. information documentation on children and families. It may be computerization of data, collection of data, and then processing the data, and then executing the plans on that particular data. And then most important is family life education, how we are going to set up national programs which are going to produce the resources for training to the teachers as well as for the parents, who are equal partners for the childhood education. Then early childhood services, all the facilities for equal, giving the equal amount of attention and material to children, including disabled and marginalized areas, and supporting the multidisciplinary services to all the early childhood education providers. Next, please. Next slide, please. Now, we have been discussing this time and again. The overall aim of ECC, the early childhood care and education, is to attain optimal outcome in all the domains of early years, and how to redesign the curriculum and pedagogy, and how it should be a continuous formative assessment system. See, if we see 85% of our child's brain development happens from 0 to 6 years. And that's a critical period. And it's important also for appropriate care and stimulation of brain in order to ensure the healthy brain development and growth in the later years also. Presently, early childhood care and education is not available to crores, millions of young children in India, particularly low socioeconomically backgrounds. So strong investment is ECC has the potential to give all young children such access, enabling them to participate and flourish in education system throughout their lives. As suggested by Mr. Alok Virmani here about multiple intelligence. So those kind of things we should incorporate in our early childhood curriculum. Extensive use of technology as defined by Ms. Bhavna. We in Kinderpillar, we have been doing all these solutions. We were the initiatives of STEM in India. We initiated the brain-based curriculum in India when we launched. Now from STEM it has become STREAM, because not only science, technology and engineering, maths is required in learning. We also need reading, writing and arts on the equal levels. So all these things should be an integral part of curriculum making. And also the education or the learning that we are going to provide should not based on the books and notebooks. It should overall aim for building character and creating a holistic and well-rounded personality of a child. Inclusion of all the stratas of society, equal participation of children with disability. For example, special education should be also considered along with the equally important parts of curriculum making. Next slide, please. If we talk about the global perspective, first, before the global perspective, I would like to mention about the expected general objectives of national education policies on early childhood initiatives. If we want to support and strengthen the work of staff and personnel concerned with the well-being and welfare of young children from birth to 8 years, so how can we do it? We can do it by focusing efforts on early childhood development and education, family education most importantly, and the mobilization of both modern and traditional sources to improve children development and well-being. Also increasing their health, how we can pay attention to their health and development, self-esteem, learning capacities, and improve the skills of families and communities as well. And also we can do how we can strengthen it by sponsoring regional seminars and training session for not only for teachers but also for the parents, so that they are also aware to evolve them and encourage them to be an equal partner in their child's development process. It's not that you just send the child to school from 3 years onwards and your job is done. From 0 to 3 years also we need to focus tremendously. And for that, a child cannot focus on himself right from the birth. It's the parents who has to be made aware how they have to take care of child's health and how they have to take care of the brain development of the child right from their birth. So encouraging the development of innovative and alternative solutions well adapted to the needs of children and life conditions of the families. Also designing the training modules for the less advantaged sectors of society. For example, the poor families, the labor class, they don't have access to the high technology education or to the good schools. If we see most of our government sectors or Anganwadis, they need to be developed, Bal Vatikas, which was mentioned about in the new education policy. So we have to encourage development of early childhood network at national and regional levels to the micro levels. Only then this change is going to happen on the same period. If the policymakers had drawn a line till 2030. So if we start practicing all these, only then we can focus on global perspective behind national education policy, which is a value-based theory and practice, which states, which is the basic principle for this perspective. It's the principle found in Convention on the Rights of Child, which is best interest of the child. We feel that it's our duty as professional educators to plan, work, and evaluate actions in according with the best interest of child. That is what is value-based theory and practice. Now, if we see about the holistic rather than fragmented approach, there's a growing need for multicultural competences for all professions working with preschool children and their families. And we need to establish full cooperation among professionals responsible for care and education of the child. So it should be a holistic approach on all the levels. And we also need to adopt a more open educational system. For example, we support this understanding and find it important to contribute to this practice. It's necessary to focus on educational teams instead of relying on just one educator or one teacher. It's a team effort. And teams must professionally accept each person's and profession's competence and have had professional training and collaboration. Next slide, please. Now, if we talk about the other important issues of early childhood education, which are the main issues mentioned in education policy now and which are already globally practiced. For example, a first point which is of prime importance is play. How play is an important part of learning and development. I would like to quote a German philosopher Friedrich von Schiller's words here. He stated that living in a state of play means living more humanly. How beautiful. Play signifies that we are human beings and through it, we explore our existence. With this perspective as basis, we can study on how children can profit from play in relation to the learning and educational settings right from the beginning. So we should see play as one of many possible kinds of learning processes. Next is family education. How we should deal with upbringing of children at home and how parents can support their children in their development. So therefore, it's vital for early childhood educators to discuss basic principles of family education with parents and also help answer questions like what kind of toys are best for my 1-year-old child or 3-year-old child? How much pocket money should I give to a young child? Should parents interfere with their child's choice of friends? So on and so forth. So in family education, there are basic dimensions linked to emotional climate and control, which maintains the entire personality of a child right from the beginning. So it's very important. Family education is immersed in all levels. Today, there's now the next point is media education. It's a vast growing interest in information and communication technology right from the beginning. We are all talking about use of technology in childhood education, but how can these negative influences from media be avoided and prevented? That should also be the concern of policymakers. And when we are talking about the curriculum planning, how does media violence and advertising influence our child's value and emotional development and child's priorities? What is the difference between training with the computer compared to a traditional teaching method? And are there any media and software venues for promoting creativity? Such questions should be addressed at the beginning. Next is cultural activities for children. Now, the kind of music activities, visit to museums, dance performances, what kind of initiatives are required when children they learn to play music instruments? How well can a 4-year child can concentrate on tasks like dance or a music course? So what are the balance between free play or positive experiences or knowledge or achievements? So all these points, how the child is culturally involved in learning and also to learn the traditions and culture of the society and on the local and on the global perspective. So in transferring culture to children as educators, we often speak on behalf of tradition from an adult perspective, but in early childhood care and education, there is a more room to take child's perspective also into account and build on their curiosity and interest. The last point is, which is very important, special need education. School and daycare institute cooperate with the local health authorities and agencies regarding special need education. The curriculum should be planned in such a way that all, as we talked about inclusions, so special education should be a part of early childhood education. Preventive health care, close relationship between the educations and health sector should be coordinated. In order to meet the needs of whole child, we need more interprofessional cooperation and coordination. And I would like to sum up here that early childhood education sets the base for entire higher learning to your school and college, and ultimately building your career. So we should focus how we are going to present early childhood education in a most appropriate way to child from right from the beginning. Thank you all the listeners. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rajul.
Thank you, Arvinderji, for sharing these wonderful ideas. And one thing I believe that this NEP has already achieved, it has created that desired mass awareness, about the importance of these early years. Now, a lot of people have formally recognized the importance of these years. So, you in a very wonderful way, you explain the national challenges and the global perspective we should adopt, in our education. You also talked about the poor state of learning outcomes at primary stage, and you shared your solutions, for them. You talked about the importance of strengthening national and regional, capacities and capabilities for research in this area. And you also, highlighted that, how like crores of students have no access to EC, and this is a very disturbing figure. You also talked about those global perspective and importance of, I would say adopting these points in areas like value-based theory or holistic approach for education rather than a fragmented approach. You also talked about that we need to adopt for a open education system, and in the end you talked about the importance of playing, learning and development activities, family education, media education and culture activities. And in the end, without without building a right atmosphere, a right environment for inclusive education, absolutely we agree with you that we won't be able to achieve the desired fruits. Thank you, Arvinder ma'am. I'll be coming back to you in the last part. Thank you
Thank
for sharing these important points.
Thank you.
And now, with this, I would request Jaswinder Singh ji, sir, if you can have your ideas, your thoughts.
Thank you, Rajulji, and good afternoon, everybody. So we've moved from the morning part to the afternoon part. So let me begin with one very important part. Almost all panelists have always, at some or the other point, have come and talked about technology. Since I represent technology, we are an edtech company. A lot of issues that we think that we will face, or the challenges that we'll face, I am sure somewhere or the other technology will play a very important role. David, sir, you did take my name when you were talking about your point and talking about technology. So let me come on to one very important thing. We all understand that this disruptive policy has a lot of new things which are to be offered. And are we really geared up? Is the government machinery geared up? Can we get onto that? And Plus, important thing is there's a huge divide between the urban and the rural India, between India and Bharat. How do we get onto all these things? Somewhere the answer is technology. So I would first want to start with, teachers. Our teachers need to be trained. Everybody has focused on teacher training because they are the people who are going to implement this policy. So their training plays a very important role. Just 50 hours of training and getting into understand all the new things, somewhere I think is not adequate. They will need to go beyond that. So the first and the foremost training which should be planned for all of them should be training on technology, right? Training on how to use technology, training on how to find information. There's a lot of information out there. Like I think ma'am did talk about, Arvinda ma'am did talk about, there's such a lot of information there. How do you know what is good, what is not? But very important is what we need to train our teachers is to find what is relevant and from where and how. If we train our teachers to do this, most of our work will be taken care of and then they can train themselves. Earlier it was said that a teacher never ceases to be a learner. True. So they have to keep learning. But who will go and teach them? So they have to become self-learners. When we talk about learn, unlearn, and relearn, not every day you're going to get a teacher to come and hold your hand and do it. So they will have to use technology to keep learning. And today, that example is that during COVID, they had to do something. There was no way out. They learned. There were some problems, but they were able to manage it. So what is very, very important is that all the teachers across the country should be trained on how to use technology and technical tools. We need not train them how to code, but we need to train them on how to access the right kind of information in the barest minimum possible time and how to disseminate, how to bring it forward toward the kids. Let me give you a simple example. Or let me before that get into a point that there was a point which was put up by one of the panelists. How will the teachers manage so many subjects? Because students in the higher education part, they will be allowed to choose from a bouquet of subjects. That's very important. I should learn what I like. Tell me, how many of us are doing what we studied? Not more than 5%. So this NEP policy, what it does, it gives an option to the student or to the child or to the learner to learn what he wants so that he is more interested and rather than just getting degrees. So if we want to have so many topics, so many subjects taught, we can't have that many teachers. So teachers will have to be all-rounders. Again, I'm telling you, we need not know everything. Teachers, from being teachers, have to become facilitators. We will have to implement the concept of flipped classroom, the concept of training our students how to do research and come to school and then discuss what they've researched. Let me give you a very, very simple example that is even a class 5 or a 6 or a 7 can do. I always give this example that normally if I were to be a geography teacher or a science teacher, and if I was supposed to talk about volcanoes, I would come open my book and start teaching. So that students will have to listen to what I am telling. But instead of this, if I tell the students that tomorrow I'm going to take up the topic on volcanoes and I want each one of you to get me 10 lines on volcanoes. What is it that the kids do? What is it that the children are going to do? What is it that the learners are going to do? They go straight home and simple Google it out. When they Google out volcanoes, unfortunately, they will not be able to find 10 lines. They're going to find 10,000 lines. So what they need to know is how to actually filter those 10,000 lines and come up with 10 lines. They have to put in those efforts. When they put in those efforts and they bring their 10 lines, the next day when the entire class gets together, each child gets up and presents what he has researched. So one, presentation skills. Second, research-based learning. Third, confidence. That is what is more important. Fourth, communicative skills. And fifth, the topic itself. And then when each one of them actually brings in his points and there's a peer group discussion, that discussion is where the learning will happen, and the teacher just needs to moderate the system. The teacher just needs to be a facilitator. Imagine what learning will happen, and this is something that students will never ever forget in life. But for this, there's something Very, very important. See, since we work with 3,000 plus schools, we work with more than 1 million students on a daily basis. Our information knowledge that we understand that increasingly students are reading less. So as educators, if we are going to train our teachers, we need to see to it that our teachers inculcate good reading habits. That's something which is going off. Unless you are a good reader, you will not be able to do research. And what NEP is talking about is bringing research elements. It's bringing students need to work on their own. When you talk about critical thinking, but before thinking, you need to go and read about it. So all these things everywhere, language plays an important part. I'm going to come to the language part after this, but this is something important that we all need to understand. Okay, so this is something that we all have to work. Now, the problem everybody's talking about, there's a digital divide between the urban and the rural. Yes, it is. So during the pandemic, people in cities or tier 2 cities were able to get across and start having these sessions online. What about students in the rural? So I would actually put it up to the government that come up with an education network, come up with a special internet which is meant only for education, which is controlled, which is free, and which is available to everybody. If a phone can reach the remotest part, why can't internet? So if the government of India, if our education department were to come up with a special network which is for education and subscription or access to that, if it is made free for all students, this will be a very strong step. And all they have to do is give each child a tablet. That is not expensive for a country like India today, when we are spending such a lot in other things. If this is taken up, I'm sure a lot can be achieved. Where a teacher can't reach, internet can reach, and this can be done. So this is something that I, from my side, would want to tell School Lalaji Foundation, India International, this forum, that put it across to the government. Let's have a network for students. If a railways can have its own internet, I'm sure, I don't know whether you know, there's something known as Railtel, the internet of the railways. Why can't education system have? Earlier, it was said by one of the panelists that the largest number of people in a particular profession are in the education industry. So we should demand and have this thing taken up. So this is all about technology. Now coming into my main topic where we talk about language, what has NEP got? What has it changed? A very important thing they've said during the early foundation years, and if required right up to 5th standard or 8th standard, education teaching can be in the local language. Mark my words, it is can be, not has to be. That means schools have the option of teaching in English. But if I were to take the decision, if I were to be an edu leader or a school owner, what would I do? I'm a person who promotes English as a language, but understand during the foundation years, if you explain to them the actual concepts, the core subjects in their mother tongue, it will be easy for them to grasp them and understand. You see what is happening? One side we are teaching them English, and the other side, even before they've acquired proper language skills, we're teaching them other subjects in that language. This is not okay. So in the early foundation years, if you teach them in their mother tongue or the local language, which the child already knows before he comes to school, his understanding about core subjects would be proper. Now there's a question, I think David sir, you had put it up, what will happen to English? We don't say that there should be only one language. This NEP talks about 3-language system. You know, till the age of 8, a child can acquire up to 5 languages. We are talking about 3. Which are those 3? The local or the mother tongue language, foreign language, and classical language. Why do we need these? So understand the core subjects during the early years should be understood in the local language, and you don't have to teach, the child already knows that. Okay. Along with that, you have the foreign language, that is English, because that is very, very important. How is he going to do research? How is he going to connect with the world? How is he going to get the right kind of jobs? So English should be there. And of course, the classical language. In some cases, it will be Urdu, some cases Sanskrit, some cases Tamil. But that's okay. Why do we need these? Okay, to understand the initial concepts in the mother tongue, great. English, that's the language of the world, language of business, they need it. And the classical language for building in more nationalism. India as a culture has such a lot to offer, but because we don't know the ancient languages, we are not able to access them. I don't know if you know that the Wright brothers were not the first ones to make the aeroplane. It was made by an Indian using the Vedas, because he could do that. Though that plane flew only for 30 seconds or 29 seconds, but he was the first guy, and all that is written in the Vedas. So this is important, very important, to bring in more nationalism, to get more information about our culture, because we are one of the oldest civilizations. So these three language system works excellent. It should be promoted. But mind well, when we talk about languages, all languages should be at higher level right from the beginning. You can't say I will teach Hindi at a higher level and English at a lower level. No. Kids can acquire, and there's a research that says that if a child can speak 3 or more languages at a time, their brain works better. Imagine one sentence you construct using 3 languages and still make meaning out of it. That's logic. Let your students speak multiple languages. When we talk about multidimensional learning, why not multi-languages? So all this is something which works excellent. Coming on to this point, I'll again like to put it that English is not something that you have to put back. It is not that you say, I will start teaching English when they come to class 5. That's going to be disastrous. Okay, so they should access all languages right from the beginning, right from day one when they are in the school. And that is what is important. When we talk about early literacy, it is not only one language or local language. Early literacy also means the other languages. And if that is taken care of, a lot can be achieved. Okay, again, I would like to repeat, schools do not have a compulsion to teach in that particular local language. They can do it, and this can be right up to 8th standard, if not 3rd or 5th. But ideally, the foundation can be in that language, and then they can look at. The second thing is, schools will get teachers who speak local languages. So you don't have to worry that how do I get a teacher who teaches in English? Now, if that teacher is in the northern part of India, that teacher already knows Hindi. So that is not a worry. And if you want to take multiple languages, take the support of technology. We as a technology company, I want to share that we have created a language lab for acquiring Sanskrit. Other than English and Hindi, we're making other languages. So languages can be taken up. We have developed the first Sanskrit lab in the world. It works. So very important. This change is a very welcome change when we talk about getting local language, promoting Sanskrit or other classical languages, that this will take our students to a long level, to great heights. Understand, our earlier education system was excellent. When we acquire study through local languages or acquire a classical language, we will be exposed to all that good wealth that we already had. So with this, I would like to conclude saying that we need not worry about language but the only thing is we should not relax saying ab hum Hindi mein padhayenge, ab English ki zarurat nahi hai. Everything is required, and we need to give equal weightage to all the languages when we start, implementing the NEP 2020. That's from my side.
Thank you, Jaswinder sir. And we really appreciate that the powerful thought that you are talking about, that we must have a exclusive network for education and educators, and on the lines of RailNet. And we also know the kind of passionate mission you are following for empowering teachers. So we thank you, Jaswinder sir, for sharing your thoughts, for participating. I'll be coming back to you. Now, I would request Sunil Dangiji, sir, if we can have your ideas, your thought. Sir, you are on mute.
At the start of the talk, what I said is that choosing a career, it is one of the important tasks. So, there's to know that what I want to do in my life is the biggest question. And there are a lot of people, those who cannot answer it. And we cannot expect such kind of answer from our child also. We keep on asking, ki aap kya banna chahte ho? Do we know ki hum kya banna chahte hain? So for that, but there exists a science using which we can come to know what will bring happiness to us. And if your livelihood can bring a happiness also with us, then that's a very joyful thing. So I would like to present a screen that the kind of the thing which we are doing and the research we have been doing. So allow me to present my screen. Rajul, can you see my screen?
So not yet. Yes.
Yeah, it's visible, right? Okay. So the name of the organization is eMango, which stands for Education Management on the Go. It's very important to manage the education. It is not just the learning part. There are a lot from away from the learning part. So for that, what we are. So education management on the go, and we are trying to solve a problem. And the problem statement is that the conventional ways of choosing the career seems to be not the best way. Now, because the way the career are being chosen, that we choose a child choose a career under the under the influence of the guidance of the parents, teachers, friends, families. But the question is, are these people aware of all the career options? Do they understand the importance of aptitude, personality, and interest? Do they even know the path to reach at the epitome of any particular career? So basic question is that the people those are trying to guide the child, do they qualify to do so? Of course, they, although they want, they do not have any wrong intention. But the thing is, they are not aware of the things. And because of choosing the wrong career, what can it leads to? It leads to dropouts. Because if a child is studying something which does not suit its aptitude, interest, and personality, of course he will be dropping out. And even if he doesn't drop out and he just continues the study, then chances of becoming unemployable degree holder increases a lot. And even if he'll get the job, say, if he's lucky that even after that he is getting the job, then it will bring a restlessness in the life. Because if I'm doing some work which does not suits my interest and personality, of course I will do the work for my livelihood. But if it doesn't suits my interest and personality, I'll remain happy. And that's we keep on calling the midlife crisis kind of thing. What I want to do, all those things. So it starts at a very early stage, and the problems start coming later on. So why we should hit this problem at the bottom itself? So, and these dropouts, unemployable degree holders, and restlessness, and in the extreme scenario, it could lead to suicide. And we have the facts for it. It's just not the imagination. These are the Hindu news, which says in last 2 years, around 2,500 students dropped out after taking admission into IITs. So what is happening? Why people are, after clearing some tough exam, why are they leaving? Because by clearing exam, they are getting into it, but somehow, their interest is not into that particular subject, or their aptitude is not as per that. Already qualifying just one exam doesn't mean that you become expert in that, or that suits your interest and personality. 94% of engineering degree holders in India are not fit for job. That's the Economic Times news. It is the Times of India's news, which says that in India हर 1.5 घंटे में एक बच्चा सुसाइड करता है, और एक विद्यार्थी के पास सुसाइड का रीजन, मतलब of course there would be very rare chances that he would have some extra pressure apart from the studying. So because of these are the few facts which are happening because of the people are not choosing the right way of what suits their aptitude and personality and interest. So now the question is, I told the problem and what are the consequences of that problem. Solution for that is, as I said, the people those are guiding the child, they are not aware of the career options. So there should be a digital library where the child himself or the parent or the teacher can explore the career. After exploring the career, the question is, what is the best fit for me? Because one size doesn't fit all. So what is the best fit for me? To find out, we need to know the aptitude, personality, interest of the child, and then map it to the right career. After finding out, okay, these are the set of career which are suitable for you, then telling the path, that now how will you move on that particular path? What are the colleges available? What are the entrance exam and all? Now the thing is that the way we are doing all this, we are doing in a very different way and very in an engaging way. What we are doing is all the information about the careers. It is not a text. We are not just writing, lots of English and all. What we are doing is we are making videos about the careers, where we are explaining everything, what you will be doing in this career, and after, from where you can do the courses, what are the colleges, and when you will pass out, what will be the jobs available, what is going to be your salary, which is a very, very important part, at least for the parents, if not for the students. And when they will pass out, then they will be doing what kind of life they will have. So all this information is being provided through videos. And very beautiful thing is that we अंग्रेजी जो भाषा है उसको शायद 10% लोग ही समझ पाते हैं इंडिया में. So what we are doing is we are making these audio visuals, and in addition to that, all these are multilingual in Hindi, English, Punjabi, Gujarati, Marathi, so that even the parents can understand that what. So we are bringing that kind of ease. And then after doing all this, then our this psychometric assessments. These psychometric assessment are also video game based. Or the child will be playing the game and will come to know his aptitude, interest, and personality. The existing psychometric assessment, the psychometric assessment is a very, very strong tool, which is used by a lot of corporates to find out the leadership skills in the people. And there is no problem with the existing psychometric. There are psychometric tests which are used for the career counseling also. But these texts, all these tests are text-based. And because of being the text-based, they have lots of problems. These are not age-appropriate kind of tests. So, because these tests will be conducted on adults, they will give the very correct output. But when these are conducted on a child, because sometimes child does not understand the context, sometimes the boredoms will come into the child, and everybody try to give the social desirable answer to any question. So, what we are doing is we are converting all these tests into a game. A child will be playing the game and his assessment will be happening in that. In addition to that, the report, again the report, in the traditional way this career counseling is being done, a report comes and that report has a 10, 12 graphs and lot of English is written there. Problem is that parents are not able to understand that report. Even the child is not able to understand that report. For that, they need some expert career counseling. And in India, an expert career counselor cannot come below 7,000 to 8,000. And there is a lack of expert career counselor. So to get rid of this problem, what we are doing is we are converting test into this test into the gamified version, so that it can give the correct output. And even our reports are multilingual and audiovisual. These are not just the written English text boring test. Just for example, तुहाडा मुंडा extrovert है, extrovert मुंडे ये करते सी. So that brings the ease. Even a mother sitting in the remotest area in the village, they can see that what this report is telling about my child. So, and this is the thanks to technology that it is bringing the cost. It takes 7,000 to 8,000 minimum rupees to get a expert career counselor and getting all this done. Because of technology, we are bringing the cost to only 200, 300 rupees. That's such a drastic difference. And we are working in the, IIT Delhi and all, and our results will be presented in International Psychology of Congress in Czech Republic in June, July. So this is our the core team. This is Professor Purnima from IIT Delhi. She is president of International Association of Applied Psychology. That's me. And this is Nitin Nagpal. He's an educationist. He's my co-founder. And he's an educator for last 20 years. Mr. Vijay Pandey, he's a psychometrician. He's in France, working with us. Then Meera Iyer, she is our counselor head. These are the few schools we have attached to. So we'll just take you very 1 or 2 minutes just. This is the platform for a child. We are making, he can explore career to find out best fit. He'll click here and he can give a psychometric assessment. And after these are E-man character. This character helps the student to find out the best fit career. So in addition to that, there are list of colleges. And similarly, there are n number of scholarship exist, which even the people are not aware of. These are the scholarship exist. There is a single platform, and all exist. What kind of internship this student will be doing? UNESCO internship, Niti Aayog internship in India. All the things a child can have a single platform. In addition to that, he can maintain all his academic record here. He need not to keep on, these are the, if I'll show you, this is the, he can, just a sec, I'll show you here. This is view profile. So this is the academic record this child has maintained for himself. He's in class 11th in 2020. He passed in 2020. What are his marks? What kind of internship he did? What are the sports? And all the record is available in the digitally format. So he can explore internship, scholarship, and he can make his own plans. He can make his wish list. He can make the wish list of the career he want to appear for, entrance exam, scholarship, internship, and we'll keep on sending them the reminder. So they do not miss any date which they have shortlisted, the college or exam. So we are trying to manage the education. A child or a parents can easily manage the education. Similarly, there is Rajul, give me 1 more minute, because there's a very interesting thing, because there are lots of just a sec. What's the problem? Yeah. Okay. Something is going wrong. Yeah. Similarly, there is a school dashboard for the school. The school itself can also come to know what are the overall numerical aptitude of my whole school. Then what is the verbal aptitude of my whole school, the logical aptitude, and then they can go the class wise. That in this class, this is the numerical aptitude, verbal aptitude. Then they go into the section wise. So these are all the things, and then what kind of stream will be suitable for their kids. And in addition to that, there are a lot of notifications which can keep on coming to the school, that what are the exams are going on, what are the events are going on, sports event and all. So these are the notification which can a principal or whatever the council in the school can keep on getting it. That's their dashboard. So what we are doing is that we have been just a second, let me stop sharing the screen. So we are making all this information is available on internet as well. We are not saying that you can find this information on Google, but problem with the Google has become is Google takes you where Google wants to take you. If you are lucky, then you'll get whatever. If you are at Google interest match, then you'll get the information right. Otherwise, it will tends to divert you. You would have realized over a period the Google is there, but there are a lot of ads. They try, or there are SEO, search engine optimization is going on. So sometimes you get the things which are just because of because someone had paid the ad. So what we are doing is we are single platform, multilingual, easy to understand for the parents and everybody, and for the schools as well. That's because of technology, and because NEP is making it a kind of requirement to manage the holistic profile of student, which can be managed through this portal. So thanks for hearing me out, and I hope that you'll try to inculcate the habits among your students to explore career and how to find the best fit career. Thanks, Raju.
Thank you, Sunilji, for sharing how technology can be used to find right career fit for ourselves. Thank you. I'll come back to you. Now, I would request our last speaker for this session, Mr. Vinayak Sharma. Vinayakji, over to you for your ideas and thoughts.
Thank you, Rajulji. We have already crossed our session time limit, so I'll keep it as short as possible from my side. I'll just share my screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yeah. So Torrents.com basically started off in the US in the year 2010. We have been associated with close to 200 plus schools in the US. And in India, we started our operation in 2017 with a pilot program in Pune. And right now we have our outreach in approximately 85 schools across India in more than 11 states. So it was purely formed with a basic idea how to give structure to the music education, both in India and abroad. I'll be showing you some, this is a bit off topic, but if you look at the screen, this is a man, his name is Abhishek Prasad. He was really passionate about playing the guitar. Now, he is a Torrens student and he has learned from Torrens instructor, which is purely the online side of things. He went through an open brain surgery wherein he was suffering from a rare condition called focal dystonia, in which the fingers of the hands, they just started going backwards so that he could not play the guitar. So the doctor actually told him to play the guitar while having an open brain surgery, by keeping him awake, so that the respective areas of the brain which were responsible for his fingers acting funny will the nerve endings will be treated and will be rectified. So this is a fact, and this is like the power of music. Now, there are rising cases of psychological issues in children between the ages of 6 and 14, like there are anxiety disorder, ADHD, suicidal tendency, depression, and other mood disorders. Now, and the pandemic has not helped in that sense, and it has only increased this because there are rising tensions in families as well as parents due to the pressures caused due to the pandemic. Now, what does music do? Like everybody is aware the power of music. We have felt it ourselves. It releases happy chemicals. It triggers serotonin and dopamine, which are mood boosters. If you learn playing music, it creates a defense mechanism against negative thoughts and mood fluctuations. There are schools that have come to us and told that after having a full-time music education curriculum where the students can feel the instruments, they can see a decline in the violence that happens in the school. They see there is a declining complaint trend from the teachers that this student is behaving badly. So it happens over the period of time. The results will be in front of you. It reduces anxiety, blood pressure, and whatnot. And like if you want to keep your brain engaged throughout your aging process, listening to or playing music is a great tool. It provides a total brain workout. Now, music involves the use of the whole brain. It improves the memory, attention, physical coordination, and mental development of a child. It stimulates regeneration of brain cells. These are all scientifically proven facts. Now, schools with, like I just said in my previous slide, that they have reported fewer incidents of classroom level violence. So we started off online, as I told you. We were teaching guitar, piano, and bass guitar, drums in the 2010, and we have outreach to more than 2.5 lakhs online subscribers. Now, this was the first of its kind program which was applied in the US, and it was very well appreciated. These are the list of few schools that are associated with us in India as of now. Now, how we go about it is that we provide everything to the school, from the infrastructure to the teachers, to the room setup, to the designing of the rooms. We provide curriculum as well. So we take care of everything. Like the program is designed through us, like it's the music room design, layout, carpeting, painting. The instructors are highly trained, and they are well qualified in their respective fields. Each and every child gets personalized attention. The class schedule can be totally customized to the school's requirement. And there are 24/7 online resources which we provide to the school as well as the children, so that their learning never stops. These are the books that have been designed by international experts. There are 8 to 10 levels of each, covering one academic year. The curriculum provided is for guitar, keyboard, drums, ukulele, Indian and Western vocals, tabla. Now, why Torrens is that we are trying to provide best of both worlds. Our experience with the technology-based instruction in US and the realities that are there in the Indian school. We try to blend into the school ethos. We take care of everything, preparing student band for daily assemblies, inter-school competition, annual day activities. Every child gets a hands-on experience at the instruments. Online reporting and progress monitoring is there. We have a mobile attendance tool and online progress report tracker that will be given to the school as well as the teacher to control the classes and monitor and upgrade the students' progress. After the completion of one academic year, we conduct a school exam and provide with a certification as well. Now, when the pandemic happened, everything came to a stop, but we were actually one of the first to have a full-time online curriculum in place for music education. But apart from that, we had faced challenges such as the students not having instruments at the home. So we taught them beatboxing, we taught them songwriting, we taught them home percussion, body percussions. So these are a few pictures of those classes. This is the online, this is the All India Band Contest which we conduct in Pune. It is having a live audience of around 7,000 students and parents combined. we have auditioned more than 150 schools in the past, and there were around 12 schools that got selected, and they were judged by Bollywood celebrities, and they were awarded certificates with in association with Yamaha and other music companies. Ehsan Nurani, I guess everybody must be aware of Shankar Ehsan Loy, the music trio for giving various Bollywood chartbusters. He is our brand ambassador, mentor, and partner director. Ehsan has been instrumental in helping us mold the curriculum for the Indian schools, and he also visits schools and conduct workshop for the students once the students start learning. So the students also get motivated by speaking to a Bollywood celebrity. Uh, if you want to take a screenshot, you can take a screenshot of this. Otherwise, Rajulji will share all the details. With that, I would like to conclude my presentation. NEP has mentioned the name of music more than 20 times. So I think music is more relevant than it was earlier in the education system, and I hope the schools realize that and appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinayak, and I really appreciate that you concluded in the time limit.
Yeah.
And big thanks to all the key speakers. This session has really gone to a new height, and we all deserve the credit for it. And due to the limitation of time, we have already over exceeded the session. We won't be able to take questions today. So here we would like to conclude the session. But before we end the session, I would request all our speakers if we can have your concluding remarks, to end the session. And we have also established one very interesting practice that while sharing your concluding remark, if you can also share, some thoughts, some idea that you would like to implement, if you get a chance to become Minister of Education, what would be your priority? So I'll come to you randomly. I'll select people randomly. I would request Jaswinder sir, if we can begin with you. If I may ask you for your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education?
Yeah, thank you, Rajul. Concluding remark is something that this policy, I have earlier also said, it's quite disruptive, but it's a very important policy, and we need to see to it that it is implemented in the right spirit. The government has done its work. They are the policy makers. We are the implementers. So we should see to it that we implement it properly. But one important point, this is too big a thing to be implemented at a time. So what we should be looking at is going piecemeal. Divide the policy and what you need to implement, do it one at a time, and over the years implemented. There is no hurry. You don't have to achieve everything by 2022. They have given us 10 years to achieve this. And that's something I say, that let's keep the policy, the spirit of the policy alive, and implement it the way it is intended to. Okay, the intentions are good. We should not look at what are the loopholes. All policies can be revised and changed, but we should start with what we can do and we should put into that. So that's one important thing. Okay, coming on to the second part of the question is, what would I do? What would I do if I were to be the Minister of Education for a day? David sir, you're doing a great job at the level of this thing. Even Dr. Shashank said that they're doing a great job at the affordable school things and other schools also. But I would want to bring in one very, very important part here. You see, the soul of education is none other the teacher. We've all talked about training the teachers. We've all talked about doing that. But what we need to do is we need to get the right kind of talent to come into the education system. This can't be the last resort for a budding young professional. This can't be that I have nothing else to do, let me be a teacher. This should be something which should be a career of choice. That is what NEP is also saying when they've come up with an integrated 4-year program for B.Ed. But what we need to do is we need to get the right kind of people. So one, their remuneration should be good. The second, we need to give them respect. Respect for teachers and respect for teaching as a profession is very, very important. So if I were to be the minister, I would grade teachers as the first-class citizens of the country. Right? I would grade teachers as the first-class citizens of the country. Recently, in one of the Scandinavian countries, where the doctors and the engineers are paid less than teachers, they had gone and approached the government. They said, why are we not paid as much as the teachers? the answer given to them was very, very, I mean, it's worth noting that. The answer was that you all are common people. That's why your salary is less. Teachers are not common people. They're the ones who create you. They're the ones who create the future of the country. So they will always be paid better. So in our country, that has to be taken up. Now, what I have done is to bring in the kind of respect and bring in, self-respect. I am on a mission, and I would want if all the principals and the other participants here, if they can be a part of this mission, if they can make the mission, I would want to share the screen for a minute. Okay, so what I'm looking at is if, okay, let me know if you are able to see the screen. Yeah, can you see the screen? Rajesh?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, at Wordsworth, what we're doing is we have got this mission that we need to recognize all educationists. How will we do that? You see, each doctor as a prefix writes DR, chartered accountants write CA, engineers write ER. Why can't we as educationists write ED? So what I would want to do is I would want to, request each one of you that if we could write an ED in front of us, let the world know that we are educationists. Let people know that we are the ones who are creating the future of the country. Let everybody